The nameplate on our door has been crooked for 6 months. And I'm fixing it the morning everything changes, because some part of me already knows we need to look like a firm that has its act together, even if we don't. Marchetti and Okonjo-Areas. It says the silver letters cold under my thumb as I press the left side flush. My hands aren't steady. I tell myself it's the coffee. You're doing the thing, Priya says behind me, arms crossed, sizing up the door like it personally offended her. The thing where you fix something that isn't actually the problem. The nameplate was crooked. The nameplate has been crooked since March, Theo. You didn't care about the nameplate in March. She hands me my phone, screen already lit, and I feel my stomach drop before I even read it, because I know that name, the way you know a scar, by the shape of it more than the look. Castellane Capital wants the meeting today, instead of Thursday. I stare at the email like it might rearrange itself into something less terrifying. It doesn't. Castellane. The only fund that called us back. The only term sheet on the table with our loan due in 3 weeks, and somehow, impossibly, the senior partner taking this meeting personally is Julian Castellane. And I haven't said that name out loud in 10 years. Not once. Not even when I drank too much at Priya's birthday and she begged for literally one good heartbreak story. Theo, you never tell me anything. You know him, Priya says. It isn't a question. She's too good at reading me for it to be a question. I knew him in high school. That's not what your face is doing right now. I don't answer that because there isn't a version of the answer that fits into the 4 minutes we have before our 9 a.m. And because some things you don't hand to another person in a hallway, you carry them until they get heavy enough that you have to put them down somewhere private. I straighten my tie instead, and I think about a locker room 10 years ago, and a voice I can still hear saying you were a mistake. Theo, the kind I'm not making again loud enough for half the team to hear it, loud enough that I spent the rest of senior year learning how to walk through hallways like I didn't feel anything at all. That skill, it turns out, is about to come in very useful. He walks in 11 minutes late, and the room doesn't so much go quiet as it goes careful, the way air gets careful before a storm decides which direction to break. Julian Castellane is taller than he was at 18, obviously, and he's traded the Letterman jacket for a charcoal suit that fits like it was built around him in a room with very good lighting. And his hair is different, and his jaw has the kind of definition that comes from a decade of being someone people don't say no to. But his eyes haven't changed. That's the part that gets me. Same exact color, same exact way of landing on a person like he's already decided what he thinks of them before they've spoken. He looks at me, and something moves behind his face. Fast, there, and gone. Like a fish under ice. And then it's smooth again, professional, a hand extended across the table. Theo, just that! Like my name is a sentence he's already edited twice. Julian. I shake his hand because Priya is watching, and because the loan is due in 3 weeks, and because some skills you learn the hard way, and then you use them for the rest of your life. His hand is warm. I hate that. I notice that. We sit. Priya runs the numbers, sharp and unbothered the way she always does, and I watch Julian's face do almost nothing while she talks. The careful blankness of a person who learned a long time ago that showing what you're thinking is a luxury. I used to know what was underneath that blankness. I don't anymore, and the not knowing sits in my chest like a stone I swallowed wrong. We're prepared to move fast, he says when she finishes, assuming the numbers hold up under diligence. His eyes flick to me, just once. 3 weeks is tight, but it's workable. Workable, I repeat, and something in my voice must give me away, because Priya kicks my ankle under the table. Subtle. A warning. Julian's mouth does something that isn't quite a smile. I read the proposal twice. The firm's good, Theo. Better than I expected. Than I expected. As if he expected anything. As if the boy who told me I was a mistake spent any part of the last 10 years expecting things from me at all. I smile the way I learned to smile in that hallway senior year. Pleasant, closed, a door with the lock turned, where no one can see it, and I say, glad we could exceed your expectations, and I watch something flicker in his eyes again. Quick, gone, and I think, good. Let it cost him something to sit across from me. I spent a long time being the only one it cost anything. The meeting runs another 40 minutes, numbers and projections, and the particular dance of two parties pretending they aren't both desperate, and somewhere in the middle of it I catch myself watching his hands instead of listening to his words. The way he turns his pen over twice before he speaks, the same nervous habit he had at 18. Doing homework at my kitchen table while my mother made us both dinner and asked him every single time if he wanted to stay over in the guest room because the roads got bad in winter. He never did stay. He always said he had to get home. I used to think that was about his curfew. I know better now, or I'm starting to. When the meeting ends, he lingers by the door, a half-second longer than the handshake requires, like he's deciding whether to say something else. And then he doesn't, and he leaves, and I stand in the conference room, a long moment after the door clicks shut, looking at the empty chair across the table like it might still tell me something. "You're doing the face again," Priya says, gathering her laptop. "What face?" "The one where you're somewhere else entirely." She studies me, not unkindly. "You want to tell me, or you want to keep pretending the nameplate's the only thing on your mind today?" "Later," I tell her, and for once, she lets it be later. Marcus Voss finds me by the elevator after the meeting, which I will later understand is not a coincidence, the way nothing about Marcus Voss is ever a coincidence. "Theo Marchetti," he says. My name, like he's tasting it for flaws. He's compact, precise, the kind of handsome that comes pressed and ironed. I run operations for Castellane Capital. I wanted to introduce myself before the diligence process gets involved. "Nice to meet you. I'll be honest with you, because I think you'll appreciate honesty." He smiles, and it doesn't reach anywhere near his eyes. "I think this deal makes more sense as an acquisition than a partnership. Absorb the firm, keep the contracts, restructure the staffing. Cleaner, faster." Julian's sentimental about a few things he shouldn't be sentimental about, and I'd hate for that to cost both of you. Sentimental. I keep my face the way I kept it 10 minutes ago. Closed, pleasant, locked. About what you tell me. He pushes the elevator button, and the doors open right on cue, and he steps in like he's already won something. 3 weeks, Mr. Marchetti. I get comfortable with the idea that this might not go the way you're hoping. The doors close on his smile, and I stand there in the lobby, feeling the particular kind of cold that has nothing to do with the air conditioning, because I recognize that voice. Not Marcus's voice, but the shape of what he's doing, the casual cruelty dressed up as practical advice. I knew a version of that boy too, once standing in a locker room, and I thought I'd built enough walls since then that I wouldn't recognize him so fast. I'm wrong, it turns out, more often than I'd like to admit. Dahlia calls that night, while I'm reheating leftover pad, "See-ee," and trying not to think about a pair of eyes that haven't changed in 10 years. "You sound weird," she says, no preamble, because my sister has never once in her life eased into a topic. Weirder than loan due in 3 weeks. Weird. It's the same weird. Liar. I hear her shifting around her apartment, the particular clatter of her doing 3 things at once. Mom asked if you're seeing anyone again, by the way. I told her, you're emotionally unavailable and busy saving your company, which felt accurate on both counts. Thank you for that. You're welcome. Now tell me what's actually going on, because you have the voice. What voice? The hallway voice. The one you used the whole spring of senior year when you'd come home and say everything was fine and then not eat dinner for 3 days. A pause. Careful. The kind only a sister knows how to leave open. Just right. Theo, what happened today? I almost lie. I have the lie ready, smooth as anything, just stressed about the deal. And then something in me just gives quiet, the way a held breath finally lets go. Julian Castellane is the investor. The silence on the other end goes loud in a way silence shouldn't be able to do. The Julian Castellane, the one and only. The one who, yes, Dahlia, that one. I hear her exhale long, and I picture her exactly the way she'd look right now. 16 years old in my memory, even though she's 25, sitting on my floor with a bag of frozen peas on her knee because some idiot in his Letterman jacket made fun of me in front of the whole locker room. And I came home and put my fist through my closet door. And she didn't ask why. She just sat with me and got me ice and never once said I told you he was bad news, even though she had months before, more than once. How do you feel? She asks now, gentler than I expect. I think about his hand, warm in mine. I think about the flicker behind his eyes, there and gone. I think about 10 years of telling myself I was over it, fully, completely, no residue, and how today proved in about 4 minutes that I'd been lying to myself with real conviction. I don't know yet, I tell her, which is the most honest thing I've said all day. The diligence calls start the next morning, and Julian is on every one of them, which I tell myself is normal, standard practice for a deal this size, and which I do not, for one single second, actually believe. By Thursday, we're in a glass conference room going through our financials line by line, Priya walking through projections with the patience of a woman who has explained this exact spreadsheet 4 times this week. And Julian listens with his pen tapping against a legal pad in a rhythm I recognize from a decade ago. 3 taps. Pause. 3 taps. The exact rhythm he used to do during exams, when he was thinking hard about something and didn't want anyone to know it. I should remember that. I do anyway. Memory doesn't ask permission before it decides what it's keeping. Can we take 5? He says abruptly, somewhere in the middle of the 3rd spreadsheet, and Priya glances at me, and I nod, and the room empties out into the hallway, leaving just the 2 of us and the hum of the building's air conditioning. You don't have to keep doing that, he says quietly, once the door clicks shut. Doing what? That face? The one you've had on since Monday. Like I'm a stranger you're being polite to. You are a stranger, I say, and it comes out sharper than I mean it to. Sharp enough that something crosses his expression. Not anger, something closer to hurt gone before I can be sure I saw it. I haven't talked to you in 10 years, Julian. There's no version of this where we're not strangers. Theo, don't. My voice stays level. I've gotten good at level. We have a meeting to finish. He looks at me for a long moment, his jaw tight, something working behind his eyes that I used to be able to read like weather, and now can't read at all. And then he nods. Once, and says, right. Of course, in a voice gone careful and closed, I realize watching him walk back into that conference room that I just did to him exactly what he did to me in that hallway 10 years ago. I shut a door on purpose, and I watched it land. It doesn't feel as good as I thought it would. That night, I don't call anyone. I don't text Priya or Dahlia or anyone at all. I just go home, and I make tea. I don't drink, and I sit on the floor of my living room, with my back against the couch, the way I used to sit when I was 17, and needed the floor to hold me up, instead of furniture that felt too easy to fall out of. I don't cry. I don't do anything dramatic. I just sit there, in the quiet, watching the light change outside my window from gold to gray to nothing, listening to the buildings settle around me, a pipe somewhere groaning the way old buildings do. And I think about a version of myself that doesn't flinch when a certain name comes up in an email. I think about how far away that version still is. At some point, I notice I'm holding my phone, his contact information still saved from a meeting invite. His name's sitting there in plain black text like it isn't a whole decade wrapped around 4 letters. I don't call him. I don't text him either. I just look at it for longer than I'd ever admit to anyone. And then I set the phone face down on the floor beside me and let the dark finish settling in. It's not peace. But it's mine. And it's quiet. And after the day I've had, that's enough. The deadline sits in the room with us now. The way a guest who's overstayed sits at a dinner table 3 weeks becomes 2.5, and every email from the bank arrives with a slightly sharper tone And Priya starts running numbers at midnight and texting me spreadsheets I half understand at 2 in the morning. If Castellane pulls out, she says one evening, not looking up from her laptop, we don't have a backup. I called everyone. Theo, everyone. We're it. I know. I need you functional for this. Whatever happened with you and him, I need you functional. I'm functional. She finally looks up. You haven't eaten today. I watched you move food around a plate for 20 minutes at lunch, like it was a tactical exercise. I don't have a good answer for that, so I don't give one. And she lets it go, because Priya has known me 11 years and she knows exactly which doors not to knock on twice in one night. Later, alone in my apartment, I find myself standing in front of the mirror in the hallway. The same hallway mirror I stood in front of the morning of that locker room thing 10 years ago, getting dressed for school and not yet knowing what the day held. And I think about the boy I was then and the man looking back at me now. And how much of the space between those two people Julian Castellane still somehow occupies. I think about his pen, tapping 3 times, pausing, tapping 3 times. I think about the flicker in his eyes that's there and gone too fast for me to ever be sure of what I saw. I think I am not doing this again. I think it with absolute conviction, the way you think things you don't actually believe. Priya finds me in the office kitchen the next morning. Both of us pretending to need coffee at 7 a.m. when really we're both just avoiding our desks. I broke up with Andre, she says. No warning! Stirring sugar into a mug like it's the most normal sentence in the world. That gets my attention off my own mess. For the first time in days. When? Sunday. He wanted me to take the in-house counsel job at his cousin's firm steady hours. Better pay. No more midnight spreadsheets. She shrugs, but it's not as light as she wants it to look. I told him I built this place with you because I wanted to build something, not just be comfortable. He said I cared more about the firm than about him. He wasn't entirely wrong. Priya, don't. She holds up a hand, gentle but firm. I'm not telling you, so you'll feel bad for me. I'm telling you because I need you to understand that I am also choosing this every single day on purpose. Whatever's going on with you and Julian, sort it out. But don't you dare let this place fold because you're too busy being heartbroken to fight for it. I gave up a steady, comfortable man for this company. The least you can do is fix a crooked nameplate. I almost laugh, the first real one in days. That's not remotely the same scale of sacrifice. No, she agrees. It's bigger. Andre had excellent taste in restaurants. She bumps my shoulder with hers the way she's done since business school, since the first all-nighter we ever pulled together. Over a business plan neither of us was sure would work. We're going to be fine, Theo, all of us. Drink your coffee. I do. It helps more than it should. Marcus corners me again, this time at a Castellane Capital reception. I didn't want to attend, and only went to because Priya insisted optics mattered. You're charming. Everyone at this party, he says, handing me a drink I didn't ask for, except the one person whose opinion actually matters for this deal. I didn't realize charm was a deliverable. Everything's a deliverable, Mr. Marchetti. That's the business. He sips his own drink, watching me over the rim of the glass with the kind of attention that feels less like interest and more like cataloging. Julian's been distracted all week. Missing details he wouldn't normally miss. I wonder why that is. You'd have to ask him. I'm asking you. Before Marcus can press further, a board member with significantly more wine in him than judgment claps Marcus on the shoulder and launches into an extremely detailed story about a merger from 2019 that Marcus clearly has no interest in hearing. And for one blessed 30 seconds I watched the man's careful composure strain visibly at the seams. His smile fixed in suffering. And it is, despite everything, the funniest thing I've seen all week. Julian appears at my elbow seconds later, watching the same scene with poorly concealed delight. Gerald does this at every single event. Cornell, 0-4. Lacrosse captain never once finished a sentence in under 4 minutes. You could have warned Marcus. I could have. Julian agrees, entirely unrepentant. But where's the fun in that? For just a second, something easy passes between us, something almost like the old rhythm, before he seems to catch himself, and the careful distance slides back into place. Sorry. I didn't mean to. It's fine, I say, and mean it, because for one unguarded moment it actually was. His voice drops, friendly, almost gentle, which is somehow worse than if he'd been cruel about it, once Marcus extracts himself from Gerald and returns his attention fully to me. Whatever history you two have, and I know there's history, Theo, people talk, I'd encourage you to leave it where it belongs, in the past. This deal is worth $11 million to my fund. I won't let nostalgia get in the way of a clean transaction. Is that a threat? It's advice. He smiles, and it's the same smile from the elevator, pressed and precise, and entirely without warmth. Advice from someone who'd really rather not watch you lose your company over feelings that stopped mattering a decade ago. He walks away before I can answer, and I stand there with a drink I don't want, watching Julian across the room laughing at something a board member said. Easy, charming, every inch the man the world expects him to be. And I think about how Marcus said feelings that stopped mattering a decade ago like a fact he was certain of, and how some small, stupid, traitorous part of me wanted to argue with him about it. I don't get the chance. Julian's eyes find mine across the room, just for a second, and something passes between us that has no business existing. Not after everything, not after the hallway, not after 10 years of silence. And I look away first, because I have to, because Marcus is still watching. And because I'm starting to suspect that the most dangerous person in this deal isn't Julian Castellane at all. The night it almost falls apart starts of all things, with rain. I'm leaving the office late, the kind of late where the building's mostly dark and your own footsteps sound too loud, when I find Julian sitting on the front steps. No umbrella, jacket soaked through, looking like a man who's been there a while and hasn't decided yet whether to come up or go home. You're going to get sick, I say, because it's easier than asking why he's here. Probably. He doesn't move. Rain runs down the side of his face, and he doesn't wipe it away. And there's something almost funny about a man worth several $100 million sitting on wet concrete steps, like he doesn't have anywhere better to be. Except it isn't funny. Not really. Not with the look on his face. Marcus wants to restructure the deal. Cut your staff by half, fold the firm's contracts into ours, keep your name on the door for marketing, and nothing else underneath it. He's got the board halfway convinced it's the smart move. The rain is cold and I don't care. Is that what you want? No. He finally looks up at me, and his eyes are doing the thing they used to do. The thing I used to be able to read. Open, for once, undefended, the careful blankness gone somewhere. I want to fund this the way we originally talked about it. Real partnership. Your name stays exactly where it is. Then tell him no. It's not that simple. He's not wrong, that it's the more profitable structure. Julian. His name comes out before I can stop it. The first time I've said it without armor since Monday. And something in his face changes when he hears it, like a held breath. Why are you sitting outside my office in the rain, instead of just telling Marcus no? He's quiet for a long moment, rain running down both our faces now, because I've sat down next to him without entirely meaning to. The cold concrete soaking through my pants, close enough that I can feel the warmth coming off him even in the wet and the cold. Because the last time I let myself care what happened to you, he says finally quiet. I said something I've spent 10 years trying to take back, and I don't know how to do this. Without being terrified, I'll do it again. The rain keeps falling, ordinary and indifferent, while something inside my chest does something I haven't let it do in a decade. It cracks open. Just slightly, just enough to let a little light through. For 3 days after the rain, something shifts, not fixed, not resolved, but different, lighter, the way a room feels different after someone's finally opened a window that's been stuck shut for years. Julian sends the revised term sheet himself, late on a Tuesday, full partnership intact, our names equal on every line, and I read it twice at my kitchen table with something that feels dangerously close to hope. And I let myself feel it, just for one night, because I'm tired of armoring against every good thing that comes near me. We sign on a Thursday morning, Priya practically glowing, Dahlia sending a string of exclamation points I'll never admit I screenshotted. And for about 6 hours, everything is exactly as good as it looks. Then Marcus calls an emergency board session, and by the time Julian finds me, in the hallway outside my own office, his face gone pale in a way I've never seen on him. The word rescind is already moving through both our companies like smoke through a building before anyone smells the fire. There's a clause, Julian says, and his voice is doing something I don't recognize, something close to panic held very tightly in place. Marcus found a covenant in the fund's charter. My father's still on the board, technically, and he's invoking it. He can force a restructure vote if the COO flags material, relational risk to a deal. Marcus flagged it this morning. Theo, he's not bluffing. He's trying to force the acquisition structure through over my signature. Can he do that? He's trying. Julian's jaw is tight, his hands not quite steady, and I think of my own hands. On that crooked nameplate days ago, a lifetime ago. There's an emergency session tomorrow. If the board sides with him, the deal becomes an acquisition whether I agree to it or not. I could lose the authority to sign anything at all. The window I let myself open 3 days ago slammed shut so fast I feel it in my chest like a physical blow, and underneath the panic, underneath the very real fear of losing everything Priya and I built, there's a small, ugly, familiar voice that says, of course. Of course it was too easy. Of course, this was never going to just be fine. I'm sorry, Julian says, and he looks like he means it more than he's ever meant anything. I'm so sorry, Theo. I should have seen this coming. Don't, I say, but quieter this time, not the same closed door from before. Don't apologize yet. Tell me what we do. But the board meets at 9 the next morning in a room with too much glass and not enough air, and I'm not supposed to be there at all. Priya argued for an hour that walking into a Castellane board session uninvited would only hand Marcus more ammunition. But I'm standing outside the door anyway at 8:52. Because some things you can't fight for from the hallway. Inside, through the glass wall, I watch Marcus stand at the head of the table, composed, precise, laying out his restructure plan with a kind of clean confidence that makes board members nod along before they've fully understood what they're agreeing to. I watched Julian's father. Silver-haired, unreadable. Exactly the kind of man who built an empire on never showing his hand, listen, without expression. And I watched Julian stand up. I can't hear him through the glass, but I don't need to. I watch his hands steady, now flat on the table, the way mine were shaking on that nameplate. 11 days ago, I watch him speak for almost 4 full minutes without once looking at his notes. I watch his father's face change slowly, the way stone changes under enough water. Not all at once, but undeniably. The vote takes another 20 minutes. I spend it standing in a hallway, doing absolutely nothing useful, which turns out to be its own kind of unbearable. Julian comes out alone. His face gives nothing away, the careful blankness back in place. And for one terrible second, I brace for the worst. And then it breaks, all at once, into something helpless and relieved, and almost laughing. We won, he says. Full partnership stands. Marcus is being quietly removed from the deal by end of week. My father, he stops, shakes his head, something disbelieving in it. My father said it was the first time in 10 years he's seen me argue for something, instead of just managing it. I think that's the nicest thing he said to me since I was 22. I don't know what to say to that. So for a second, I just stand there. The relief hitting me in a wave so large I have to put a hand against the wall. Theo. He's closer. Now. Close enough that I can feel the warmth of him in the cool hallway air. I need to say something, and I need you to actually hear it, not the locked door version. Okay, what I said to you. Senior year in the locker room. His voice doesn't waver, even though I can see it costs him something to keep it steady. I was 18 and terrified of what I felt for you, and I said the cruelest thing I could think of, because I thought if I made you hate me, I wouldn't have to be scared of it anymore. It was never about you being a mistake. You were never the mistake, Theo. I was the mistake. The way I handled it, the way I handled you. The hallway goes very quiet. Somewhere behind us, the boardroom door clicks shut. I've spent 10 years, he says, becoming someone who doesn't run from things. And I'm standing here now, not running, telling you that I don't want a business partner who's also a stranger. I want the chance to be something else to you. If you'll let me. I think about the nameplate. I think about the boy in the hallway 10 years ago, learning to lock a door so no one could see what was behind it. I think about how long I've kept that door locked and how tired my hands are after 11 days of holding it shut against a man who just stood in front of his own father and chose me out loud. Ask me properly, I say, and my voice isn't quite steady either, not in a hallway outside a boardroom. Something like joy breaks across his face. Dinner tonight. Not a meeting, not a deal. Just dinner, Theo. With me. Okay, I say, and it's the easiest word I've said all month. Okay, yes. 3 months later, the nameplate on our door reads Marchetti, Okinjarias, and Castellane. And the letters are perfectly straight, because I checked them myself twice the morning we hung the new sign. Priya still gives me a look every time Julian walks into the office that says, I cannot believe this is my life now, though it's gotten considerably fonder over 3 months, especially since he fixed our cash flow problems for good and started bringing her the good coffee from the place 2 blocks over instead of the office sludge. Dahlia met him for the first time over dinner 2 weeks ago and spent the entire meal asking him pointed questions about his intentions, with the gleeful menace of a younger sister finally getting to interrogate someone. And Julian, God help him, answered every single one seriously, which somehow won her over completely by dessert. Marcus, last I heard, landed at a competing fund and is, according to absolutely no one who misses him, doing fine. Tonight, Julian and I are closing up the office late, the city gone quiet and gold outside the windows. And he catches my hand as I am locking the front door, turning me gently until I'm facing him in the low light of the hallway. What? I say, smiling, because I know that look on him now, the one that means he's about to say something he's been holding on to all day. I keep thinking about that nameplate, he says, the crooked one. The one you were fixing the morning I walked back into your life. I remember. I want to fix something too. He reaches up, slow, deliberate, and straightens the collar of my coat. The same gesture, I realize, that I make 100 times a day without thinking, the thing I do with my hands when I don't know what else to do with them. The thing he's clearly been watching closely enough to learn. I spent 10 years thinking I broke something in you that day. I don't think that anymore. I think you built something steadier than I ever could have imagined, with or without me. I just got lucky enough that there was room left for me in it. I think about a locker room, 10 years gone. I think about a crooked nameplate and shaking hands and a hallway outside a boardroom where I finally let a door stay open. Take me home, I tell him, and I don't look back at the office, the nameplate gleaming straight and certain behind us in the last of the evening light. He does.